Promoting dialogue.
Good afternoon and welcome to NewsLink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Here are the top stories. The United Peacekeeping Force in Mali to begin liquidation of facilitate in 2024 as it ends decade-long mission. Dakar Court of First Instance reopens Ousmane Sonko's eligibility case ahead of 2024 election. Federal lawmakers in Nigeria pledged more than $600,000 to rebuild community affected by accidental drone strike last week.
Through the leadership of the House of Representatives, bring on ground some developmental projects ranging from the building of blocks of classrooms, building of maternity and hospital facilities in the affected community. We will also provide solar-powered boreholes and mechanized powered boreholes with hand pumps.
And in Sierra Leone, controversy surrounds the interrogation process of opposition leader Ernest Bai Koroma in the November 26 event. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Tawfiq Abdul Nasser with NewsLink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in Liberia, Ghana and the Gambia. Our top story takes us to Mali, where the United Nations Peacekeeping Force, MINUSMA, on Monday lowered its flag after a decade of operations. Deployed in 2013, authorities in Bamako in June this year asked MINUSMA to evacuate, citing its failure to end insurgency, a saga that began after the coup in 2020 against late President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. MINUSMA's exit was marked by a ceremony in the nation's capital attended by the government officials and UN representatives. The UN Blue Helmet has closed all its camps. A liquidation phase will take place after January 1, involving activities such as handing over the remaining equipment to the authorities. Stefan Dujarric is spokesperson for the UN Secretary General during virtual briefing on the Peacekeeping Force departure. Here in Senegal, the Dakar Court of First Instance will today reopen the case of Ousmane Sonko's removal from the electoral rolls less than 3 months before the presidential election. The court will decide whether to reinstate Sonko, who was removed due to a 2-year imprisonment sentence in June for corrupting youth individuals. The defense argues for a retrial, claiming Sonko was tried in absentia and the legal process was politically motivated. If the decision on Tuesday doesn't favor Sonko, he could be disqualified from the 2024 presidential election, with the application deadline for candidates set at December 26. Away from that, Nigerian federal lawmakers, saddened by the deadly drone strike in Kaduna State, have raised more than 500 million naira or $632,000 to support victims and their families. Around 127 have been confirmed dead and several dozens injured from that disaster. Announcing the donation, the leader of the Northern House Caucus at the National Assembly, Alassane Dugua, said the fund will support rebuilding efforts of the community situated in the Igabi local government area of the state.
Our collective contribution as a Northern Regional Caucus is amounting to 45 million naira. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have also considered and agreed through the leadership of the House of Representatives, obviously through the Speaker, to also bring on ground some developmental projects ranging from the building of blocks of classrooms, building of maternity and hospital facilities in the affected community. We will also provide solar-powered boreholes and mechanized powered boreholes with hand pumps for the benefit of this affected community.
Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Governor, Uba Sani, appreciated the lawmakers for the gesture but urged security reforms to reduce insecurity across the country and protect civilians. More on legislative matters. National Assembly members in the Gambia have begun a debate on the appropriation bill for the 2024 national budget. At the chamber on Monday, the parliamentarians essentially focused on the country's planned expenditures, revenue resources, and providing a roadmap for the nation's economic direction. Our Banjul correspondent Sankule Janko has more in this report.
Members of Parliament deliberated on economic priorities outlined in the budget, such as infrastructure development, healthcare, education, and other sectors critical to the Gambia's growth. The debate covered various strategies proposed by the government to generate revenue. This involved discussions on taxation policies, trade agreements, and other measures to enhance the country's financial resources. Among those who shared their thoughts were the National Assembly member for Kiang West, Lamin Sise, the National Assembly member for Yundum constituency, Abdullahi Sise, and the National Assembly member for Wuli East, Swaibu Toure.
I think that the minister also needs to focus more closely on what we as a country needs to do internally to be able to have a lift up from the state of the stagnant economy.
All our national budget, apart from recurrent and operation, should go into water because we cannot afford that our people are still struggling for water.
If you allocate 100 million for Minister of Youth and Sports, sometimes it's difficult to understand how much money is going to the youth company alone and how much goes to the sports.
The issue of national debt and its management was a significant topic as lawmakers scrutinized the government's approach to borrowing, emphasizing the need for responsible fiscal policy to avoid diverse economic consequences. Abdullah Njai is the National Assembly member for Banjul Central.
All these sectors, if you combine them, our national debt service is even way past this. So we are really in high debt distress, Honorable Speaker. It seems like government is trying to jungle between things. It doesn't make any sense, and it really doesn't align with the debt management strategy.
The debate was held after Finance and Economic Minister Sidi Keita tabled the Appropriation Bill 2024 for further examination. The Gambia's total revenue and grants for 2024 are cumulatively projected to reach $34.93 billion, representing a 5% increase compared to the 2023 budget of $33.22 billion. For NEWSLINK and West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankule Janko reporting from Banjul.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. NEWSLINK continues.
Ghana's Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, is advocating for the revision of sanctions of the proposed promotion of proper human rights and Ghanaian Family Value Bills 2021, commonly known as the Anti-LGBT Bill. This appeal coincides with the just celebrated International Human Rights Day and the ongoing consideration of the bill in Parliament. In contrast, the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, GCBC, has voiced its support for the bill, emphasizing the differentiation between condemning actions and individuals. WADR's Accra correspondent Nade Tete reports.
Commissioner of SHRAJ, Joseph Whittal, voiced concerns about specific clauses within the anti-LGBTQI+ bill during an interview with journalists.
Our concerns, some of them are even beginning to be addressed. But the key ones that relate to freedom of expression, the right not to sympathize with any person who professes that type of orientation, and some institutions having to undertake some education on the bill when it becomes law, we think is quite problematic.
Amnesty International has echoed similar concerns. Genevieve Partington is country director for Amnesty International.
Everyone should be concerned about this bill. It targets allies. And when I say allies, it targets you and me. That means if you associate yourself with someone who is part of that community, you can go to jail. If you are a landlord, perhaps, and you have persons who are suspected of LGBTI activity, you can go to jail if you don't report them. It's going to push people out on the streets. There are already forced evictions happening.
On the contrary, the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference has praised the bill, considering it a positive step forward. In a statement addressing homosexuality and its criminalization, the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference clarified its stance, Emphasizing the state's role in protecting the nation from potential threats linked to these acts, they suggested the criminalization might serve the nation's interests. However, they emphasized that criminalizing individuals solely based on their sexual orientation was unacceptable. For NewsLink on WADR, I am Nadi Diteti.
Sierra Leone's opposition leader is expected to return to the headquarters of the Criminal Investigations Department for questioning later today. At least this is what sources informed on the matter can say. Summoned last Thursday by the police to present himself for interrogation in connection with the November 26 failed coup, Koroma has repeatedly distanced himself from the rebellion. Still, the authorities found the former president as a person of interest after members of his security detail were profiled as perpetrators of the insurrection. Since last Friday, when Koroma first reported to the police, different stories have popped up about his alleged detention, release and placement and the house arrest, all of which are unverified. Neither the opposition, All People's Congress APC party, Koroma's legal team, or the government have spoken. WADR contacted a Sierra Leonean journalist about the current atmosphere.
Currently, as I'm speaking, it's currently very difficult to even ascertain who is speaking the fact or who is saying the truth. You will hear the government, from the government window, be saying different things. Even the lawyer representing the former president, JFK, of course, will be also saying different things. But what both parties did confirm earlier was that the president was not under any house arrest, because that went viral, that the former president was under house arrest. He spent quite number of hours, of course, at the police station or the CID, being interrogated until he was finally released and promised to return on Saturday. He did return on Saturday again. Saturday he did return and promised that the government informed that he will continue to present himself, and today he indeed continued the response by the call of the police to assist in the investigations of the November 26th incident. So the former president is expected to report again tomorrow, according to what is written on our news desk.
Why has it been difficult since the November 26 event for CSOs or media practitioners or professionals to speak on this matter? And it appears as if only the government is dishing out information. Even the opposition party, APC, that stands accused, has refused to speak on this issue. Well,
we're having the Right to Access Information Commission here, which, of course, they are charged with the responsibility to ensure that citizens have access to information. But equally so, we are having, there are clauses, or what can I say, conditions to that. We're having highly classified information, of course, which cannot be disclosed to the public, probably at some point in time or at a particular given time. I think this is what we are, we are going by.
As a reminder, more than 70 people, including 7 military and police officers as well as retired uniformed personnel, have been arrested in the aftermath of the gunfight that killed 20 people. You're listening to NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. The United Nations peacekeeping force in Mali to begin liquidation of facilities in 2024 as it ends a decade-long mission. The Dakar Court of First Instance reopens Ousmane Sonko's eligibility case ahead of 2024 election. Federal lawmakers in Nigeria pledge more than $600,000 to rebuild community affected by accidental drone strike last week. And in Sierra Leone, controversy surrounds the interrogation process of opposition leader Ernest Bai Koroma in the November 26 event. Still ahead is the press review, the guest interview, and sports updates. Stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Over in Liberia, the 2022 Malaria Indicators Survey report was launched, highlighting a significant improvement in the fight against malaria. Over the years, malaria has been a grave public health concern in Liberia, accounting for 34% of outpatient visits, 47% of inpatient services, and 23% of hospital deaths. WADR's Darlington Popper in Monrovia reports.
The survey was implemented by the National Malaria Control Program with technical assistance from the Liberia Institute of Statistics and Geoinformation Services, LIGIS. At the launch of the report, Health Minister Dr. Wilhelmina Jala said the report has also shown the effectiveness of ongoing malaria prevention and control programs in the country.
In addition, it gives us another baseline to monitor malaria control in the country. But one of the other things that it gives us is how, because we heard how much money have already been spent in trying to take care of the malaria situation. But now, hopefully, the new resource mobilization will go through malaria elimination.
World Health Organization resident representative to Liberia, Dr. Peter Clement, said climate change has emerged as a major driver affecting malaria transmission and the overall burden.
A more concerted effort is urgently required to holistically implement the national malaria strategy by fostering innovations, resource mobilization, and strong regulation. The resource support to marginalized communities and the communities experience a high burden of the disease. But importantly, the support to the health system, which is a backbone for the success of the malaria control.
Liberia's partners have pledged to support the country with the needed logistics and resources to fight malaria. For NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Popper in Monrovia.
As the COP28 summits conclude, a newly proposed climate agreement drafted on Monday by the Emirati Presidency of UN talks advocates for the reduction of fossil fuel production and consumption. Crafted under COP28, President Sultan Al-Jaber, who also leads the UAE's national oil company, the document was unveiled on the eve of the final day of the annual climate conference in Dubai. The proposed agreement emphasizes the need to decrease fossil fuel consumption and production in a fair, organized, and equitable manner, aiming for net zero emission by before or around 2050 in alignment with scientific findings. Addressing the matter, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urged the pursuit of compromises for solutions that uphold both scientific principles and the imperative for ambitious actions in reducing greenhouse gas emission while ensuring climate justice.
Now is the time for maximum ambition and maximum flexibility. Ministers and negotiators must move beyond arbitrary red lines, entrenched positions and blocking tactics. It's time to go into overdrive, to negotiate in good faith and rise to the challenge set by COP President Dr. Sultan Ahmed Al-Jaber. It's time to seek compromise for solutions without compromising on the science or compromising on the need for the highest ambition. In our fractured and divided world, COP28 can show that multilateralism remains our best hope to tackle global challenges. Specifically, I ask parties to ensure maximum ambition on two fronts. First, ambition on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Second, ambition on delivering climate justice.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Darlington Popper in Monrovia joins us now with the major headlines from the Liberian dailies.
For this edition of Press Review, we have with us the Hot Pepper newspaper, the News newspaper, and the Heritage newspaper. We will begin a review process with the Hot Pepper newspaper, with this bold banner headline on the front page of the Hot Pepper newspaper. West uses sanction to subject people to their will. EFFL's Commander Gonquel says always paying homage to the West is nonsense and a modern-day slavery to Africans. On the back page of the Hot Pepper newspaper, don't use your skills to corrupt the system. Guest speaker Dr. Peter tells Thomas Foundation Vocational Schools graduates. The newspaper is next. Chima Justice orders Koji to testify in Growers Cow's case. Access declaration date expires. Boakai condemns mob violence, says it disregards homohood. On the back page of the newspaper, Yeke vows to remain opposition. Ministry of Health launches malaria indicator survey report. The Heritage newspaper is now our last stop for today's edition of Press Review. More blows as Tua Chie and Nukwe sanctioned by the United States government. The enduring search for an effective leadership in African countries. On the back page of the Heritage newspaper, envy and jealousy. Senator Peno opens up on chaotic Grand Jury incident. We will leave it right there. On that note, that is how we love to conclude today's edition of Press Review. But before we go, these are the newspapers we actually followed on today's edition. We followed the Hot Pepper newspaper, the newspaper, and the Heritage newspaper was our last stop. On that note, thank you so much for following Press Review, and bye-bye.
Darlington Popper there with the Press Review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our featured interview takes us to Mali, where the United Nations peacekeeping force MINUSMA officially lowered its flag on Monday, concluding a decade of operations. Deployed in 2013, MINUSMA faced a pivotal moment in June when authorities in Bamako requested its evacuation, citing its perceived inability to quell the insurgency that arose following the 2020 coup against late President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita. The departure of MINUSMA was commemorated with a ceremony in the nation's capital, Bamako, attended by government officials and UN representatives. As the mission enters a liquidation phase after January 1, involving activities such as transferring remaining equipment to local authorities, the crucial question arises: what is the overall assessment of MINUSMA's effectiveness in fostering peace and stability in Mali throughout the past decade? International relations expert Morgan Asoba is here to share his perspective.
This is directly in line with what was requested from the Malian government, and this is not something that should be surprising either or even some other specific actors, because it has been decided and there was an agreement on the whole process till now. So what we have to do is to observe the process going to the end.
Right. So one of the reasons why the Malian government actually asked MINUSMA out of its territory is because it's accused it of not being able to fight the insurgency in the country. So how would you assess the overall effectiveness of MINUSMA in contributing to peace and stability in Mali?
The first thing to clarify here is that the expectation of the Malian government is not suitable to the agenda of the MINUSMA or of the UN peacekeeping missions, because the purpose of the missions is not to conquer all the territory that has been taken by any armed groups or to fight the armed groups on the ground. The main target or the main purpose of the peacekeeping operation mission is, first of all, to maintain the peaceful atmosphere by also providing assistance to the people when it comes to their various basic needs on a daily process or a daily, let's say, handling. And this has been done so far. by the peacekeeping mission because they are multidimensional and they invest in other items within the society, things such as healthcare, building the institution on the ground, strengthening the institution with their expertise.
Right. So do you think this action by the Malian government would block it from receiving humanitarian aid from the UN, especially to displaced persons in the country?
Of course, this could lead us to witness this kind of behavior from the UN, because it's true that the UN does not look at the various ideology of the countries that the UN assists when it comes to assistance and humanitarian aid. But there are some very strong geopolitical interests to be taken into consideration when the UN should get involved, because UN is existing out of donors and out of involvement on some key states. So if it has to be a help or an assistance coming from the UN, it's going to be very difficult if it comes to attending to the need of Malian people. But these same humanitarian aids could be channeled through other, let's say, paths to reach the Malian people.
Morgan Asogba is an international relations expert. Sankule Janko is here with the sports update.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Nigeria's Victor Osimhen and Asisat Ashola won the biggest individual awards at the CAF Awards 2023 in the Moroccan city of Marrakesh on Monday night. Osimhen won the CAF African Player of the Year for the first time, while his compatriot Oshoala won the record 6th CAF African Women's Player of the Year. Morocco's Walid Regragui was crowned CAF's Best Coach of the Year in the men's category. South Africa's Desiree Elise secured the Best Coach award in the women's category. Senegal's Lamine Camara, the 19-year-old FC Metz forward, clinched the CAF Young Player of the Year award. Moroccan prodigy Nasrin El Shad won the inaugural CAF Women's Young Player of the Year. Morocco won the Men's National Team Award following their performance at the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022, while Nigeria won the Women's National Team of the Year award. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We have come to the end of this edition of NewsLink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at WADR News on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Taufik Abdul Nasir. Good afternoon.
And many thanks